Well, good afternoon, everybody, and a big thank you to John Walters and the Hudson Institute for giving us this platform. And I wanted to start by thanking, I'll call it my gang of five that stood beside me during the beginnings of COVID. And of course, Dr. Quay, his courage in explaining to me, worked with me on the genetic sequencing. The rest of that gang, Dr. Bob Cadleck, Dr. Bob Redfield, David Asher, were all instrumental in giving me the courage to continue to speak out on the origins of COVID, and recognize two of my staffers as well, Charlotte Panetta and Diane Cutler, who went down so many rabbit holes trying to sort all this out. I learned something as a young physician. If you lose your reputation, you never get it back. If you lose your reputation, you never get it back. And I also learned when there's no consensus, you just say so, and you listen. You listen to your patients, and you follow your protocols, especially in emergencies. Of course, we follow the science, but you add that science to your own personal experiences and then surround that information as you give advice to a very unique patient. And I learned to trust my instincts as a physician. And of course, above all, you want to be honest with your patients and honor that patient-physician relationship. Now, over the past 6 years, I've watched institutions that Americans depend upon, the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, abandon their principles. And I'm afraid they lost their reputation, and that has real consequences. It's going to be so hard for America to trust those institutions when we were lied to by the previous administration. A government that loses trust loses the ability to lead, and a government that can't lead in a crisis is dangerous. So, I'm not the expert on all of this. Dr. Stephen Quay is certainly the expert on the DNA sequencing and then on policies going forward. And his resume speaks for itself. But when I felt like I was a voice in the wilderness, thank you, Dr. Quay, for arming me with the information that I needed to get the word out. But there's more to the story than the genome. There's institutional failure, biosafety failure, policy failure. And I do want to stop and honor Dr. Bob Cadleck. Bob, are you in the room? I thought Bob was going to make it. He led an 18-month investigation and did the Muddy Waters Report, documenting exactly how institutions failed. He had over 60 experts, 600 articles were reviewed, all open source documents. And he just recently released a follow-up to that Muddy Waters as well. Again, arming me with what type of policy changes we needed to go forward with. And I'm certainly grateful for former retired Senator Burr as well and his leadership. Now, why does this matter? It matters to the parent who lost their job because they refused a vaccine mandate. It matters to those who didn't get to say goodbye to a loved one in a nursing home. It matters to Americans who asked honest questions and got silence or attacks instead of answers. And it matters to your family's safety, to our ability to respond when the next crisis hits, to whether we have the supply chains, the leadership, and the trusted institutions needed to protect Americans. We need to start talking about what comes next. We don't know what the next pandemic will be, so we need to move supply chains home, not just manufacturing, but active pharmaceutical ingredients. We need ASPR leading the response, not research agencies with conflicts of interest. We need independent biosecurity oversight, we need transparency, and we need accountability. Term limits shouldn't be just for elected officials, and that's why we introduced something called the Term Act to make sure no one person ever accumulates 38 years of unchecked power again. No major agency head should head an agency for over, in my opinion, 8 years. After all, power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts. And these aren't partisan ideas. They're how we rebuild trust and prepare America for the next crisis. Now, again, I'm not the expert on what all those policies should be, but I have confidence in Dr. Quay, and his new book, The Coda's Witness, isn't just about what went wrong. It's about what needs to happen next. We need real solutions, real prevention. We need people like Dr. Quay advising Congress so we come up with, again, the right protocols. And then Congress, the administration, we need to follow these protocols, especially in a time of emergency. So, Dr. Quay, we look forward to your comments. America needs to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much.